Hey there, everyone, and welcome to Pour and Explore, a wine, food, and travel podcast. I'm your host, Nick Elliott, the wine guy. I'd love to be your go-to guide for all things wine, food, and the amazing places they take us. Here on Pour and Explore, we'll sip, savor, and wander through the exciting world of wine, discuss incredible cuisines, and uncover the stories behind unforgettable destinations. Each week, I'll bring you lively conversations with wine experts, chefs, travel pros, and fellow enthusiasts. We'll share practical tips, hilarious tales, and plenty of inspiration to fuel your next adventure. So grab a glass, pull up a chair, and join me as we pour, explore, and celebrate the good life. Let's dive in. Hey, friends, welcome back to Pour and Explore, a wine, food, and travel podcast, the show where we uncork great conversations and sip our way through stories from the worlds of flavor, culture, and, of course, connection. I'm your host, Nick Elliott, the wine guy, sommelier, winemaker, and chef. You know who I am. So glad that you are here with us tonight, and I am certainly someone who believes that life is too short to drink bad wine or a boring cocktail. Now, if you've been listening for a while, you know I love sitting down with people who not only make something delicious, but also bring a deep sense of passion and purpose to what they do. And my guest today checks every single one of those boxes and then some. I'm joined today by Jennifer Bryan. She is the self-proclaimed cocktail evangelist and the founder of Make Muddle. That is a Kentucky-based cocktail company on a mission to simplify mixology, celebrate great ingredients, and help people make drinks they love without the intimidation factor, which I absolutely love. She's also got a brand new book on the way. It's coming out this month. It's called The Classic Cocktail Revival. That's dropping again this month. And it's been over a decade in the making. And as you'll hear from the conversation with Jennifer today, she is totally stoked about it. Jennifer's story is rooted in a very Kentucky upbringing, Appalachian food, tradition, farm to table. You know, that wasn't just a trend, that was life growing up in Kentucky. She grew up in kitchens filled with the smells of gravy and four burners, garden tomatoes still warm from the vine, and family gatherings, you know, where food was always the centerpiece of those get-togethers. Those early flavors still influence her work today, including one of the most intriguing cocktails I've ever heard of in a while, tomato water martini that instantly transport her and hopefully you, when you taste it, back to your grandmother's garden. Now, before launching her cocktail business, Jennifer spent years in catering and event planning, and we swapped some war stories from the trenches, 400 guest weddings, tents with no electricity, and of course the magic that happens when a great crew pulls off something impossible. We have a lot in common that way. You know, high pressure, high connection environments are the way that we shaped our careers, and it's such an amazing conversation. With Make Muddle, Jennifer has taken that same sense of creativity and teamwork and applied it to her bar. Her mixers are all alcohol free. They're designed to work across spirits, from gimlets to margaritas, and it's just with very, very few ingredients, 3 or 4 ingredients. Absolutely amazing. She's also got her eye on the future, of course, as most great entrepreneurs do. She's developing a THC and CBD-ready cocktail products to meet the growing demand for healthier, more mindful ways to enjoy a drink. You know, today we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. We got a nice long episode ahead of you. Let's talk about why Amaro is the unsung hero of cocktails in America today. Let's talk about her favorite bourbon. Of course, we can't talk to the Cocktail Evangelist without talking about bourbon and Kentucky, how her travels, from England as a student to curating bourbon tours today have shaped her palate and, more importantly, her worldview. The philosophy behind her new book and how understanding master recipes, which you'll learn about in a few minutes, can make anyone an expert cocktail maker, and the deeper why that drives her work, creating moments of true human connection over a great pour, of course. Now, if you've ever walked into a liquor store and felt overwhelmed, if you've ever wanted to make cocktails at home but didn't know where to start, or, of course, if you just love a good Kentucky food and drink story, you're going to love this conversation. I know I certainly did. So grab a glass of whatever you like, bourbon, wine, mocktail, cocktail, maybe even a spritz. Let's dive in. And here is my conversation with the cocktail evangelist herself.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so very much for being on the show today. I love the fact that you're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're just going to dive right in, if that's okay with you.
Let's do it.
You describe yourself as a proud Kentucky girl. How has your bluegrass upbringing influenced your palates and even more importantly, your path?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I come from a long line of Appalachian folks. My mom's family all grew up in Eastern Kentucky and hailed from Barberville, Kentucky. And I just grew up in and around kitchens that were amazing. Everyone I knew how to cook. I was at the hip of my grandma. I mean, my earliest memories are stirring gravy, right? I mean,
Love
we would do breakfast for Christmas and other events, and I would just be at the kitchen. There'd be four of us. There'd be four burners and four skillets of gravy, and we'd all be stirring. So, it was really great to grow up in that beautiful food environment. And so much, we talk about farm to table now, but it was the only way. And when my family was growing up, it was just poverty. So, they ate what they grew, and they, shared a hog with somebody else, and that's how winters went. So you grew up eating that amazing food that comes right there from the land. It's a really good upbringing.
That's a perfect segue into my next question is there a dish from your childhood that just brings back great memories and really informs what you're doing today in your cocktail life?
One of my favorite memories, and it's going to sound bizarre when you start talking about biscuits and gravy and all the wonderful baking that they did, but tomatoes off the vine in the summertime, like there is this smell of the tomato vines that I am instantly 6 or 7 years old, right? I'm instantly in the garden with my mom and my grandmother and my aunts picking tomatoes. They're so warm as they come off the vine. That taste, I mean, we would eat them like apples in the garden. They were so amazing. And I have a cocktail now that I do tomato water martini, where I crush fresh tomatoes and drain all of the water out of it overnight, and you get this clarified tomato water, and then I use that as an ingredient in a tequila martini. And it is like the minute I take a sip of it, I am instantly back in the garden with my family and can smell the tomato vines. So it's a fun cocktail.
It sounds amazing, and I love that story. I grew up in Philadelphia, so I'm a city boy. I grew up in the city, and I never knew what a real tomato tasted like until I moved to California
Wow.
in 2004. The first time I ever tasted a tomato off the vine, I absolutely fell in love
Yeah,
with
you just want to
it.
cry. Like it's the most
Yes,
perfect flavor.
absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Exactly.
Is
Wait,
this
this is
real?
what it's supposed to taste like? I didn't even know.
Oh my goodness, my goodness. Well, I talked a little bit about your background at the top of the show, but I want to go into it just a little bit because you and I have followed a lot of the same path in our lives. I was in catering for many years. I came out of culinary school in the 90s and did the chef thing for a while. I was in the wedding business for so long, and I understand you've done tons of event planning in a past life.
Yes.
What's your one favorites? I know you've got 10,000 of them because I know I do. What's your one favorite story from your wedding business?
So my catering, I was catering actually at that time with another
Hmm.
caterer.
Hmm.
And we did this beautiful wedding here in Louisville. And we catered it out of a tent that had no water and no electricity. And we were like it was for 400 people. It was a sit down formal dinner. They did family style, but there were, 3 servers per table. But I have never in my life expedited food the way that I did that night. Like it was like, literally just this big U shape of 6-foot tables in the
Oh,
tent with
I
plates
know
as
it.
far as the eye can see, and everybody's a machine, and it's just tick 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 tick. And the flow of those evenings, the flow of those events is so magical. But at the end of the night, you can barely walk to get into your car. You're so tired. You're like, I don't care. I need like White Castles and a straight bourbon right now before I get into the bed.
Yes. I barely walk, and I know exactly what you're talking about, and barely see too, because you're, especially for the person who's in charge of that line, you're looking at every single plate and making sure, and then the colors start to jumble after a while.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And how, it was one of those moments though where when you're working with good people, like I would walk into the fires of hell with any fires of hell with a good crew. Let me say that, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
that night it was like, people are just pulling your ass out of the sling all night long, and at the end of the night everybody's family.
yes. Absolutely. I've sat down and had a glass of wine or a glass of bourbon many times with crews that I've worked with over the years, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And you just get to sit back, relax, and to finally take a deep breath and try to walk to your car.
I know. And people don't believe it when you say I was too tired to sleep. They're like, I don't even know what that means. Like, well, you've
Oh
been at it
gosh.
for 20 hours. Like you're wired. I don't know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've never been in the service industry, especially in the restaurant, front or back, doesn't matter, catering industry, you can work for 16 hours and still be high as a kite on life and
Mhm.
adrenaline and
Yes.
just the craziness of the day. And I would lay in bed some mornings, until 5 a.m., before I fell
Absolutely.
asleep after,
Or
you
sleep
know.
for 3 hours and then you're wide awake at 5 a.m. And then it's like,
Yes,
this is not how this was supposed to go.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad we got to talk about that, but that's not the reason that I have you here. I need to talk to you about your new passion in life, which is all about mixology and cocktails. You are the cocktail evangelist.
I am the
I-
cocktail evangelist here to spread the good news about booze. So,
it's such a fun title. How did it come to be?
well, when Make Muddle was co-founded, it started as a cookbook. The cookbook that is being published has been being written for more than a decade. So when we started talking about, we realized very quickly, the co-founder and I, that it wasn't a book, it was a business.
Mhm.
And when we started thinking about our own backgrounds and our own history and our own family situations and dynamics growing up, we both were steeped in religion in our families.
Mhm.
And that language came very easily to us. And it was kind of a tongue in cheek way to make that history our own. And that's how Make Muddle was born, how cocktail evangelism was born.
That's great. That's great. And we're going to talk about the book in just a minute, but I want to talk a little bit more about the origins of this
Yes.
great thing that you've put together. Well, let's talk basics first. What is one underrated or overlooked ingredient that you feel can totally transform a drink?
Oh gosh, so many. We could start with vermouths. We
Mhm.
could start with Amaro. I'm a big Amaro fan, and it's just a sleeper in the United States. We don't
Yes.
talk about it much. You really like mixologists know about it, craft bartenders know about it, but the general population, it's such an overwhelming category, first of all. And also it's a struggle sometimes to find a good selection of them.
Yes.
So, I mean, everybody can find things like, the Montenegro or Chinar or any of those other, liqueurs like that. But when we start getting into the more abstract ones from Italy or wherever, those tend to baffle people. They don't know what to do with them. They don't know, and they're quite honestly not inexpensive to, I mean, they're, when you're paying $25, $35, $40 for a bottle of Amaro or liqueur or even good vermouth. I mean, and the vermouth industry, bless their hearts, have figured out the 375 milliliter bottle for that, just
Right.
because you're not using that much of it, right?
Yes, yes.
We need the Amaro industry to do that as well. That would be super helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with you, by the way, specifically about Italian liqueurs. So many beautiful liqueurs coming out of the country of Italy. Beautiful citrus liqueurs and herbaceous liqueurs and all of these things that just a splash or a half a jigger, it just lights up so many drinks.
It does, and transforms and gives it this instant depth that it was missing before. Like, you're like, I'm not really sure what that needs, but let me try this and see what happens. And when you get it in there, it's like it all just gels. It's beautiful.
Yep, absolutely. So moving on to one of my favorite topics, and I know one of your favorite topics is bourbon. You are there in Kentucky, and obviously the seats of amazingness when it comes to whiskey in the U.S. Well, let's start here. What's your favorite? Just boom. What's your favorite?
If I could only have one bottle for the rest of my life, it would be the Eagle Rare 17.
Okay. All right.
I have a lot of them. It's kind of, I always tell people, it's like picking your favorite kid. Like, it depends on what's happening. I know which kid I need with me when I'm in the trenches. I know which kid I need with me at the concerts. It's the same kind of thing with spirits and bourbons.
Yes.
So depending on what we're doing is depending on, which bourbon we're choosing. But if it were just one bottle forever, it would be the Eagle Rare 17.
Fantastic. I had a great conversation with another caster who is just over the border in Ohio from you guys, and he travels to Kentucky quite often to get his bourbon. So we had a great conversation about all of the fun places that he goes when he's visiting. If I were to come to Kentucky, besides going to Eagle Rare, where else? What's the must-go place?
Oh, if we're talking about distilleries, it is hands down Castle and Key. I think they have the most beautiful campus I have ever laid eyes on. And they have done it so right. The forethought that went into the planning that went into how to welcome guests, how to make guests feel like they're a part of the experience and a part of the place and a part of the time and a part of the land. And I mean, they have just knocked it out of the park. And I mean, they have beautiful products, left to right, top to bottom. There's nothing they make that I'm not in love with, but that campus is truly special.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love talking about, especially with you being on the ground. I love talking to people because this show is also about travel. So I want to make sure that I'm incorporating stuff like that into the show because, if they hear it from you, obviously the Cocktail Evangelist is not going to lie to you and tell you a bad place to go.
Right. And we do, bourbon tourism and curating bourbon experiences for travelers is part of Make Muddle's business too. So that is always so fun when you get, big whiskey people that are like, what we are putting ourselves in your hands for 3 days. What do we need to do? And then it's just, I get to be a mad scientist and send them all the great places.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because that was going to be my next transition point is that that's another place that you and I, have in common is doing these excursions for, in your case, whiskey lovers. I do the same for wine lovers,
Love it.
taking them around the world and so on. And I absolutely love doing it.
So
I
you just got
assume
back from France recently, didn't you?
I did. Yes,
Right, yeah.
absolutely. I got back from Bordeaux about 3 weeks ago. Mhm.
Oh, good. Did you have the best
Yes.
time ever?
Oh, it was an amazing time. I love river cruises, which is why I do so many of them. And Europe has 1,000 of them, and
Hmm.
you're never missing the beat when it comes to wine. And this time I'll give a little shout out to Avalon Waterways. I was sailing with this time around and had such an amazing experience. Absolutely loved every minute of it. So yes, I love France and I love river cruising
So
and I
fun.
love what I do. And I
Yes,
assume that you love what you do. Otherwise, you
absolutely.
wouldn't be doing it. You don't seem like a girl who'd be doing something she didn't want to do.
That's exactly travel, and you know this. There is a freshness that you look at the whole world with when you come
Yes.
back from traveling someplace. Like
Yes.
it expands our own borders of our minds and our lives and our experience so much. And
Yes.
it's such a heady feeling. It's almost like being drunk for me when I travel. I just like
Yes.
it's just such a great feeling and rush when I get to new places and feel that energy of the cities and the little villages, and yeah, it's really magical. So
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. And that theme tends to pop up in all of my episodes, and I know my listeners think I'm a broken record when I say this, is you have not lived until you've gotten out of your bubble,
mhm,
wherever that might be.
yes.
As I mentioned, I grew up in Philadelphia and I didn't leave. Well, I mean, I left the city of Philadelphia, but I didn't leave the Northeast essentially until I was, maybe in my late teens.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what I was missing.
Right.
There's this literally this whole world out there,
Yes.
that you have to experience. And if you don't experience it, you are doing yourself and everyone else around you a disservice.
And even
It's
outside the US, like that's where the greatest shocks for me came when I was the same. I was late teens. I went to college for a semester. There was a sister school in outside of London in Grantham, England, and we went to school there. But the first month that I was there, it was like the doors of my mind had been kicked open. Like my
yes,
reality shifted. I thought I knew some things. I didn't know anything about anything.
right,
And meeting all of these people as we traveled for those 6 months, those 4 months, meeting all of these people from different parts of the world and talking politics with the guys from Scotland and talking politics from the guys from, Japan, and talking to the girls from Australia about what's going on there. It was just so eye-opening and so refreshing. And I still seek those cultural connections
hmm,
anytime I travel, just because they feel so real to me. That connection of people sitting down together and either sharing a glass of wine or a bourbon or a meal or whatever it is, just, the moments of true human connection are what we're chasing all the time.
yes. Amen, cocktail evangelist. Amen to that. Oh my goodness. So, Make Muddle, you got this great company there in Kentucky. Tell us a little bit about that. I'm going to make sure that everyone gets over to your website because it's a can't miss. But let's have a couple of bullet points about the amazingness.
Of Make Muddle, well, our entire purpose is that you can have a 3 or 4 ingredient cocktail no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what you're working with. So that was the goal going into it. We wanted to simplify how people approached cocktails. It's so intimidating. And you're seeing it in the middle of the liquor store, and it's aisle after
Yes,
aisle after. You're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't have any idea where to start. And they're not any help because they don't know what you want. If you knew what
right.
you wanted, they would be a great help. But most of them are like, So when we started down the product road, it really like the angels sang, the sky opened and the angels sang. The co-founder, I bought my co-founder out a few years ago, but when we started the business, we both have such a strong culinary background. And so it was really just about putting magical flavor combinations together and taking a 6 or 7 ingredient cocktail down to 3 or 4 ingredients. That was the goal. And then thinking about cocktails in that way really kind of blew the doors open for what the flavor combinations could be. It was really important that every product worked with every spirit, that there were no one-trick ponies. They could do everything from gimlets to, margaritas and everything in between. So that was how it started. And, I have 4 new products that are dropping this fall that are very exciting. It's very exciting, and I just love it. The creative end of it is always so good.
Absolutely. So your number one business are these amazing mixers that you're making, and these are alcohol-free mixers. So
They are. Yes.
you can do them in any type of
Yes.
cocktail, any type of sparkling beverage, any type of mocktail
That's
as
correct.
well.
Mhm.
There's a whole line
And
that's
moving
available.
into, we're moving toward THC cocktails right now
Oh,
also, which is very exciting. I think nationally, the laws are changing quickly. We are with THC and CBD RTD ready to drink cocktails. We're where we were like 5 or 6 years ago in alcoholic ready to drink
mm,
cocktails. There was a whole lot of trash on the market as people were kind of throwing it out there to see what would stick. And we're kind of there right now with THC, but I know that evolution, as folks are starting to become more health conscious about how much they're imbibing and what they're imbibing and
right.
how they want to, get a little distance from the day, what that looks like for everybody. I definitely think THC is on the rise there as well. And those mixers do it all.
Well, fantastic. I'm excited to see those come out. Is there a timeline for that? I know there's a lot of legal process I'm sure that you have to go through, but
I don't have an RTD for THC, but there are lots of great brands out there right now that are THC additives that are flavorless. They
of
add,
course.
they're so great. I've worked with a few of them. And so, no, you would just get our mixers and then you could add THC to any mocktail you wanted.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. That is amazing. And on top of that, you've got an awesome book coming out.
Yes, I do have a book
Absolutely.
coming out.
So this book is going to drop in September, shortly after this episode airs, and it's called The Classic Cocktail Revival. Tell us about the awesome book that's coming out in September.
This book has been so long coming. It's been like just 10 years ago I started writing it. It was National Whiskey Sour Day, and I was at my BFF's house, and I was never a whiskey sour drinker, and I was like, they were always just really astringent and just gross, and the lemon juice was terrible, and it was just all bad. So I was like, let me do a syrup and see if I can't make this, whiskey sour something I like. And so I did a cherry vanilla syrup for it, and it was fantastic. And she said, go write that recipe on that card over there on my bar. And when I went over, it was a piece of my stationery with like 20 recipes on it that had just been chicken scratched everywhere. And I thought I should do a cookbook for her for Christmas. That would be really fun. And so I started doing it. And then I thought, no, I should do a cookbook. And it just got bigger. The project got bigger and bigger and bigger, right? As good creative things do.
Yep.
And then I reached a plateau. I had a lot of the book done, and I started submitting it to agents, right? I was querying agents, and they had great feedback, but they were like, "It's just not ready yet. Come back when it's ready." So I was married at the time, and he said, "You should ask our friend that we've, this friend of ours from college that we had always tweaked each other's recipes over the years." So I called him, and he was like, yeah, I'll be glad to take a look at it. And when we started looking at the book, we realized immediately that it wasn't a book, it was a business that we wanted to do together. And so the book got backburnered, and we focused on the product line. And then I bought him out in 2022. And it was one of those tumultuous times when there's just change. There was a lot of change happening.
Of course.
And we had just come out of COVID, and it was the first year back. We were the official cocktail mixer sponsor for the Kentucky Derby Festival that year. Wow. It was the first year back. Like, it was just, people were ready to go and be there.
Yes.
And there was just a lot of change. So at the end of that summer, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the business next. I didn't know if I wanted to just focus on retail or if I wanted to really go to on-premise bars and restaurants or what was going to happen. And I was stuck, and I've always just had the great fortune to be able to sink into my creativity when it got dark. And that's what I did. And I immediately knew what the book needed to be, scrapped everything and totally rewrote the whole book in 2 weeks. And it flowed like water.
Right.
It was so good. And then that was it. And I literally had a publisher less than 2 weeks after that. It was like the universe was like, finally.
It was all meant to be.
It was absolutely.
Love that. Can you share, during that process, that 10-year process or that 2-week process, can you share maybe a behind the scenes moment, maybe a mishap or an unexpected flavor combo that just completely blew you away?
Yeah, so when the book started, I did all the photography originally, and I submitted all the photography and the manuscript, the whole 9 yards, and they came back and said, these 60 images need to be reshot. And I was like, there is zero chance that I have time to reshoot 60 cocktails. So we brought a photographer in at that point. Jesse Creech Higdon is the photographer. And I mean, the minute she and I got together, it was just magic. I mean, she was so great. She was so intuitive. She's been shooting in the industry for a long time, so she really understands fundamentally about beverage shooting and all of that. But we just had the best time with it. We had a wonderful time. And then the publisher said to me right toward the end, like the photography was done. We were getting ready to send the book off for final edits and all of that. And she came back and said, what do you think about some illustration in there too?
Ooh.
And I said, oh, I would love that. And I have just the girl. So a great friend of mine in Denver is a beautiful illustrator, and she agreed to do the illustrations for the book. And when that happened, it all just kind of gelled and came to this really lovely place. So I'm so excited to put it out into the world.
I can't wait to read it, of course, and get my hands on a copy. And, and speaking of photography, I was doing a little online stalking of you, came across your Instagram page, and those pictures are sexy.
Thank you so much.
Those pictures are absolutely sexy.
That is me. That's all me. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's so fun to shoot photos of cocktails. I mean, talk about low stakes and high reward there. So.
I hear that. So the book's coming out soon after this airs.
Mm-hmm.
What do you love most about teaching people about mixing cocktails and mixing cocktails at home?
Knowledge is power. And I love the empowerment of anyone when they get that knowledge, and where they go with it is so exciting to me to watch. So I love to teach about cocktails in terms of like master recipes, like Julia Child, for example, when she did her cookbook, these are the master recipes for this. So the book is organized by, the master recipe for an old fashioned is spirit, sweet, bitters, right? Water. That's the master recipe. You can substitute anything in there that you would like. What kind of spirit? Doesn't have to be bourbon, doesn't have to be brandy, could be rum, could be tequila, could be gin, could be barrel-aged gin, right? So as we start to substitute, when we figure out what the master recipe is, then we can bring our own creativity to it. But that empowerment of teaching people, bringing them into what we love is so satisfying. And then beyond that, the bigger why is always about the connection that happens over a good pour, whether it's wine or whiskey or mocktails or a great meal, or it doesn't matter what it is. It is that moment that we all take a breath, settle in, and talk to the people next to us, right?
Yes.
And those moments, that's what this whole business has been about. It has been about fostering those moments of connection between people. And that, for me, that's my why, always and forever.
Now, I love that you said that. It's perfect for this show. And I love what you said earlier too, along this vein about just the average person walking into a liquor store,
Mhm.
and getting overwhelmed.
Mhm.
It's the exact same thing that happens to wine drinkers when they walk
Mhm.
into a grocery store. Let's use a
Mhm.
grocery store as an example, or the other side of the liquor store where all the
Mhm.
wine is. It's overwhelming. It
It is.
absolutely is, especially if you have limited knowledge,
Mhm.
on what you're looking at. Do I want a bottle of red from France, or do I want a bottle of red from California? Do I want a bottle of white from Germany, or a bottle of white from New Zealand? And beyond confusing, it can be intimidating,
Absolutely.
100%. So I love the fact that your book is about educating people on the
Mhm.
basics, and once you can get the basics down, then you can take it to the next step. You can
Yes.
start playing around with the amaros or whatever you're going to do, and it's an amazing place to start. You don't have to be intimidated. There are amazing resources around what Jennifer is doing with Mink and Muddle and this show and so many great shows out there. If you want to learn more about
Mhm.
cocktails or drinking whiskey straight,
Mhm.
even or
Mhm.
and wine, find yourself a resource. And what you're doing is an amazing resource. And again, I can't say it enough. I'm excited about this book coming out.
Thank you so much. I would encourage folks, no matter where they are, find a class. Go down to
Yes,
Total Wine, go down to your local wine shop, see when they're doing a tasting next. And the empowerment starts for my opinion, it starts with figuring out why you like what you like. What
yes,
do you like in a wine? Well, I love minerals, so we're going old world every time, right? Because I can afford to drink really I can afford to drink old world wine. California, they've got that, but it's going to cost me $55 to $65 a bottle, right?
right.
Same thing with bourbon. Why do I like Elijah Craig or why do I like, Weller instead? What's the difference there? Well, one of them's more tobacco, one of them's more smoke, one of them's sweeter, one of them's got all that, that burnt vanilla, that all of that yumminess that we love in there, that burnt sugar and the vanilla, the
Yes,
butterscotch. So figuring out why they like what they like, I think is the most important place to start.
yes.
And when people say, make me a cocktail, I'll say, what do you like? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, let's start here. Brown or clear?
That's a good
And
starting
then we
point.
go from that, right? And then is it sour, sweet, spirit forward, fruity? What do you like? Do you want dessert cocktail? So and just
Mm.
drilling down into what they typically drink is a great place to start expanding their palates.
Yeah, so you are a spirit sommelier essentially
I
is
am,
is
yes,
what
I
you're
am
doing
spirit
there.
professional, yes.
I mean, I just can't say enough about learning. I'm a trained chef. I was in the industry forever, and still to this day, I will go to cooking classes.
Mhm.
Particularly when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
I will if I'm going to Bulgaria. I want to go to a Bulgarian cooking class,
Yes, you do.
and because I want to know what they're doing and how they're doing it. And you don't necessarily have to go to a Bulgarian cooking class, to learn, but I can almost guarantee you there's a cooking class in your town, or a spirits class in your town, or your local bar is putting on a mixology class, or
That's
something
right.
along those lines. Find these things out, and go do it. Go have
Or make
fun
an
with it.
evening of it and travel 2 hours or an hour and a half up the road and see what's happening in the town next to you, because you
Yes.
might, like, when you're talking about doing these cooking classes in different countries, I mean, the legacy of food and drink in each place of the world is so unique and
Yes.
special and is full of such love and history and ancestry and legacy and all of those things. So it's such a great way to tap into that. Like, it's like it's distilled down into this. You're going to get so much in an hour and a half class that
Yep.
you would not have gotten in a week if you had not
Yes.
gone to that and experienced that. So I
Yeah.
love that you do cooking classes when you travel. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I love doing it. And and I want to qualify what we're talking about a little bit here. We touched on it earlier in the show too about traveling. Traveling is not about going to a foreign country. It's not being able to afford a flight or a boat to a foreign country. Traveling is just, like I said, getting out of your little bubble, going to the next town over, or to the next county over, or to the next state over. It's get out of that place and go
Mhm.
find something new, because you're going to find people, you're going to find food, you're going to find stories,
Mhm.
things that you've not seen before. So, go somewhere you've never been, you know,
Absolutely.
go somewhere you've never been.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. Jennifer, thank you so much. This has been amazing. And we are going to finish the show with my first ever lightning round.
We're premiering a lightning round. Woo!
Absolutely. So I appreciate you being a good sport, and we're just going to
Yes.
run through it. And this is how we're going to close out the show today. First question: the first cocktail you ever made was?
Old fashioned.
Old fashioned. Fantastic. The best cocktail name you've ever heard?
Oh, lightning round. Mondo Trasho. It's one of our cocktails that we do with rum and our two pepper agave.
Mondo Trasho. Three ingredients that you always have stocked up in your home bar.
Vermouth, some sort of Amaro liqueur, bitter something, bitter liqueur in any way. I don't care how
Got it.
you want to give it to me. I'll find something to do with it. And then a nice whiskey. I always have good whiskey on my bar. So,
Yes,
but I'm a whiskey
absolutely.
drinker. So,
The guests didn't hear it, but I was flabbergasted and amazed by your background there. That is the greatest background I've ever seen anywhere on any
thank
video call
you.
ever.
It's got a lot of good stuff on it. I'll tell you that.
No doubt. Tell me about a dream guest that you would like to host for dinner, and what would you serve them?
Oh, it would have been Anthony Bourdain. Is this dead or alive? Yeah, it would have been Anthony
A dead or
Bourdain.
alive, absolutely.
He every time I saw him on camera, I was like, we would totally be friends.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
everybody thought that it was his appeal, right?
Yep.
And what would I serve? Gosh, I would serve him. I do a carpaccio dish with
Mhm.
venison that's pretty spectacular. I would think I would serve him the venison carpaccio. I think I would do something classic Kentucky. I would probably start before the carpaccio with little hot browns, little titty, mini hot browns, because that's such a local delicacy here. And, I'm not sure after probably I would go real simple. I probably a steak on the grill and, a great salad and great bottle of wine and just call it a night. It would be just fun stuff.
All right, bonus question. What's a hot brown?
So Brown was developed at the Brown Hotel here in Louisville, Kentucky, and it is the most delicious thing. It is like the best hangover thing you've ever had in your whole life. It
Okay.
is sliced turkey on a grilled sourdough bread with
Okay.
a fresh slice of tomato and bacon, and it's covered in Mornay sauce and cheese, and then it's slid under the broiler until it gets bubbly and gorgeous. And then, you spend the first 7 minutes burning the roof of your mouth off because you can't wait to eat it when it gets to you.
All right. Well, I am sold. I will be making that in the next week.
Right?
Most
It's great.
definitely.
You got to come to Louisville to have it. It's perfect at the Brown Hotel.
If your personality were a cocktail, what would be in it?
Oh shit. Probably a spritz. Like I have this theme in the summer. I cook Baptist and I drink Italian in the summer. So we're doing all the church cookbook things, right? We're gonna do a trifle for Sunday dinner this week because everybody needs some cake and lemon curd in their life, right?
Love it.
And
Yep.
then we're gonna drink spritzes and great wine. So I think that's what I would say.
A little bubbly and filled with alcohol. I love that. And our last lightning round question. Finish this sentence for me, Jennifer. A good cocktail should always what?
Be what you like. It should always be what you like. Whatever about the rules. You
Yes.
drink what you like every time. We're chasing joy, Nick. That's what we're doing. We're not doing what we shoulda, coulda, woulda. Chase
Yeah.
that joy. Hmm.
I don't know if you've ever had a chance to listen to my show, Jennifer, but my motto, my wine educated sommelier, classically trained chef motto is you drink what you like.
Yes, I
I
love
say
that.
it,
I
I
have
say
not
it
heard that. I just got a
every
little bit of
day.
information. I love it.
You drink what you like, 100%. Thank you so much for being on the
Yes,
show. I really,
absolutely.
really appreciate it.
Absolute delight. Loved
It
it.
was
Thank you
awesome to
so
have
much
you.
for having me. I appreciate it, Nick.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am now both thirsty and hungry after that conversation. Jennifer Bryan is the kind of guest I could talk to for hours. As a matter of fact, when we first got on our call, we did talk for quite a while before we even started recording, and we've got so much in common, and I really, really enjoyed meeting her. We could talk for hours about her growing up in Kentucky, her creative approach to cocktails, her passion for connecting people, which I absolutely love, and of course, doing that over a beautiful drink. Not a bad way to go. I'm definitely in awe of her mission with Make Muddle. It's all about empowerment. Showing you that you don't need a 10-step recipe or a fully stocked speakeasy to make something special. Sometimes it's just about knowing a few basics, trusting your palate, and as she says, chasing joy in your glass. Super, super important. Make sure you check out Make Muddle online. You'll find the website and all of her other socials. You can follow Jennifer on Instagram. You'll find that information down there in the show notes. I'll also say that her cocktail photography is absolutely gorgeous, and it definitely inspire you to mix up something special tonight. And of course, mark your calendar. Her new book is coming out this month. Look for the Classic Cocktail Revival. That's dropping soon, so keep your eye out for that. It's going to be a great resource for anyone who loves cocktails, from beginners to seasoned bartenders, whether that's a home bartender or a professional bartender, something you're definitely going to want to pick up. If you enjoyed this conversation, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to Pour and Explore. No matter where you are, if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're on Apple, hit follow. Give me a review if you're feeling generous. I would really appreciate it. Or a rating. Very, very helpful to me. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that in advance. Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your journey, from stirring gravy in grandma's kitchen to becoming a true ambassador for the craft cocktail world. I loved every minute of it, and I can't wait to talk to you again real soon. Until next time, friends, keep wondering and wandering. This has been Pour and Explore. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Pour and Explore. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories, or your questions, so you can drop me a line at cheers@thewineguy.vin. That's cheers@thewineguy.vin. Or let's connect on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. Grab those links on my website at thewineguy.vin. Until next time, let's keep wondering and wandering. Cheers, everyone.